Welcome to the NCDPI World Language Quarterly Update for Wednesday, May 6, 2020. Today's agenda is posted here. We're going to start with a welcome and overview for today, and then go right into our news to use. You see we have a number of items on news to use, starting with our Teaching World Languages Remotely resource page and pages. We're also going to talk about the North Carolina Coordinator's shared local guidance document. We're going to discuss the international agreements and school partnership opportunities that are available right now. We're going to talk about 2 self-paced Canvas courses that you as an educator may be interested in. And then we're going to talk about LinguaFolio and LFO for NC, or LinguaFolio Online for NC, the app for LinguaFolio, as a resource for your classrooms. After that, we'll move to our PD2Go article called Language Can Be Music to Students' Ears. And then we'll finish up with some reminders and resources and any last questions that we have. I am the presenter today. My name is Anne-Marie Gunter. I'm the World Languages Consultant at the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, NCDPI, and I have with me a guest speaker who I will introduce a little later on when we get to her part of the presentation. I always like to start and find out why everyone is here today. So the question I have is, what are your goals with today's webinar? And you can check all that apply to you. Are you a teacher leader sharing information with colleagues? Are you an administrator gathering materials for local presentations? Are you an educator earning a contact hour for licensure renewal? Are you an individual getting a question answered? Or are you just anonymous today because you maybe just needed or wanted a break on a Wednesday afternoon? Like I said, that's select all that apply to you. I'm going to run the poll feature of GoToWebinar right now. I'm going to launch it. It should come up on your screen and you should be able to click the answers that apply to you. It looks like almost all of you have voted. I see a few comments in the questions box that you're not always able to click on the screen. Do the best you can. Like I said, it does depend somewhat on what device and browser you're using today. If you're able to use the app, that may help you. Or you can just go ahead and type your answer in the question box too. But it's best if you just click on the answer that's on the screen if you can. Take about 5 more seconds for those responses. All right, thank you for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and close out our poll and of course, share the answers with you. All right, it looks like over 70% of you are here today to earn a contact hour for licensure renewal. This is always a good way to do that. Once you actively participate in a World Language Webinar Series live broadcast, you will receive an email receipt with your certificate. It will have the date and the amount of time, 1 hour. Since it is 1 hour, that's worth 0.1 CEUs or 1 contact hour. And so please save that email receipt and the certificate that comes with it so that you can turn that in for your professional development needs. Also note that districts and charter schools may need to approve those kinds of professional development credits. So work through whatever local process you have with that. Also, almost half of you, 42%, said you're a teacher leader sharing information with colleagues, and that's great as well. Please know that after this broadcast is done today, I will post all of our information, the slides we've used, any handouts and major links as well as a recording of the broadcast so that you can use those to share with others as you need to. I also see there are about 5% of you who are administrator gathering materials for local presentations, and that's one of the reasons why I post all of our materials. You can easily get the slides whatever format you need, Google or PowerPoint, or even as a PDF if you would like, and adapt them for your local presentations. We also have about 25% of you who said you're an individual getting a question answered. That's great too. I hope we do answer your question today. If not, know that you can always put your question in the question box, and I will be here as long as we need to this afternoon to find an answer to your question or to determine who we need to contact to get you an answer. And finally, 8% of you said you are anonymous who just wanted or needed a break on a Wednesday afternoon. And I certainly understand that. As we get into May, especially in some of these challenging times we're in, it's good to take a break and be together professionally with other teachers. So welcome to everyone. All right, well, let's get started with our news to use. Like I said, we've got several items here, and I typically break these down and say whether they're state or regional or national or international items, but many of these overlap and bring in a lot of those things. So I just listed them all as news to use today. Our first one is about teaching world languages remotely, a topic that has become critically important to us in a number of ways during these last few months. We have set up a Teaching World Languages Remotely set of pages on our World Languages website for the state using the successful COVID-19 resource bank. And I want to tell you a little story about that. This resource bank of materials that's being organized nationally was started by the Southern Atlantic Language Collaborative, or SALC. And that's the group of states you see there. Of course, North Carolina is there, but also South Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia. We routinely work together on world language initiatives and projects that would be helpful to all of our states. So we started compiling resources for teachers during the time when they would need to be teaching remotely. We shared that with the National Council of State Supervisors for Languages, or NCSSFL is the acronym is pronounced, and that's my national group. And you can see across the country who all is represented. All the blue states on that map have a person at their Department of Education, like I am serving your needs in the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. But we also have others who have retired members or associate members in the striped ones. So you can see that there's a lot of people working on this resource bank about teaching world languages remotely. So I'm pulling from that and providing that information to you on our state website so that you can get it easily. Our main site is at here, the bit.ly site you see, bit.ly/teachwlremote. Do remember on a bit.ly link or any shortened URL, capitalization is important. So as you know, these resources have been pulled from that national bank, and they come from various educators, groups, organizations, and publications involved specifically with world language education. I know there's been a lot of information shared with teachers to use in moving to remote instruction, and these are materials specific to world language education that we've posted for you. I do always have to have the disclaimer: the inclusion of any resources on these lists does not constitute endorsement or verification by NCDPI. You still need to follow whatever guidelines and parameters you have about using online resources of any kind through your school or your district or however that's structured. So do be sure and check those out. Finally, these lists are organized by category, though there is some overlap, and I'd encourage you to check back often to see the new resources that we have. So let's get started. On our main landing page, on the NCDPI World Languages Google site, we just have the headline of Teaching Remotely. And then we have subpages that are linked directly from there, specifically technology resources for teaching world languages online, multilingual resources, as well as language-specific resources. So you just click on one of those buttons and you can go directly to that particular subpage. So let's look about that. For teaching resources, for technology resources for teaching world languages online, this is specifically information about moving world language instruction online. Originally, we only had 2 categories here and a little over 10 links. Now we have almost 20 links in 4 different groups. And so we've categorized this as first, guidance and how-to for transitioning to remote teaching, as well as another category called Insight and Reflection, where we have articles about teaching remotely or moving to that. We also have a space for tools and tips, and these are things like Pinterest boards, shared documents, and websites from other world language educators that may be helpful in your work. Finally, we have a space for AP, Cambridge, and IB testing, because that was a big question that came up specifically with transitioning to teaching remotely. So I'm just going to go ahead and click out on that with the bit.ly link to show you that page a little bit. As I said, the bit.ly link takes you to the main landing page, and then you just click on the subpage that you want using the buttons. So I'll go to Technology Resources for Teaching World Languages Online, and you see those categories that I talked about. So we have some guidance on how to move online in a hurry, how to teach remotely with Google Slides, those kinds of things. We have our articles that give us insight and reflection. Then we have tools and tips. And so this is where we have things like online tools charts and websites from some of our Teachers of the Year, our National Teachers of the Year in World Languages, as well as others who are known and have created materials for us to share nationwide. And finally, we have information about the testing that goes on in some of our programs in high schools in particular. So that's the technology resources page. Next up is our multilingual resources subpage, and this has materials and activities that are adaptable for any language. Originally, this was our shortest page, but it's quickly growing. We had only 8 links on this page when we started, but now there are over 10, and they're organized into 3 groups. And it's multilingual resources for general or all ages of students. We also have a space just for elementary students, including dual language immersion or DLI programs. And then we have a space for secondary students. So once again, I'm going to go over to our Teach WL Remote site and click on our multilingual resources button and show you how we have that. So you can see we have some things that have been prepared for us from different groups, national groups. AATSP actually has multilingual websites, even though they're focused on Spanish and Portuguese teachers. The Castles Games to Teach website is from the University of Oregon. We have information on digital citizenship materials, a roundup of multilingual resources on COVID-19, and then our virtual field trips and experiences would be good for all ages. After that, we do have spaces, like I said, for elementary students as well as secondary students in language programs. And this is where you find things like our DLI links or early language learning resources that would be particularly good for almost any language, as well as for secondary students, things like language practice choice boards, open culture language lessons, and then supporting some of like our AP students during our school closures. So lots of materials there, and you just click on the link and find what you need. Finally, the language-specific resources page or subpage is one that I think we will continue to grow even after this current crisis has passed, because this is a way for us to share some resources for different languages, whether we're meeting our students face-to-face or online or in some sort of blended format. And so originally there were about 30 some links on this page in 10 different languages. Now there are over 50 links for 14 languages. So right now we teach 18 languages in North Carolina, so we're getting closer to having something literally for everyone. So I'm going to go over to that page, click on the language-specific resources so that you can kind of get a glimpse of what's available for you to see and work with. I have gone ahead and updated these links. I've made sure all of these are working so that you can get to what you need for your different languages. You can see that as we go through the different languages, we've color-coded them every other one, so you can quickly see as we go through the list of languages how it works. And we have even resources for our less commonly taught languages like Russian, Turkish, and Urdu. So that's a quick overview of our teaching resources for teaching remote resources. So I want to ask you, especially this time of year when you're already thinking about planning for the next school year, which resource pages will you explore further in planning for the 2020-2021 school year? You can, again, check all that would apply, Are you just going to start on that main landing page and work from there? Are you going to focus right in on the technology resources or the multilingual resources, or even go to the language-specific resources page to look at the language or languages you teach? Perhaps you're thinking about what would be next. So I'll go ahead and run that poll like before, and you can let me know which one of these you're going to explore further for your planning for next year. All right, looks like we're getting faster at voting. Let's take another 5 seconds and finish up. All right, thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and close it. All right, and I will share the responses so that you can see. It looks like over half of you, 72%, well over half of you, are going to look at that language-specific resources page. And like I said, that's a great one to start with because you can really get some information that will help you and your students in whatever learning environment you're in. And that's one that I hope will continue to grow and that we will be able to use going into the future. Also, over half of you, 60%, said you're going to look at those technology resources for teaching world languages remotely. That's a great place to start too, because there's a lot of information. And we have people who have submitted some really good resources and even created some resources for us, like websites and so forth or Pinterest boards that we were looking at. Also, 37% of you said you're going to just start on that main landing page and work your way across. And about a third of you, 33%, said you can look at the multilingual resources. So that's great. And 18% said you're just going to think about what to do next. Wonderful. All right. Well, as we move forward, I do want to mention to you that we can all work together on this. As I said, this page and the subpages will continue to grow on a regular basis. And there's a note, as you can see here across the page, that things are being updated. But if you find a new resource, a broken link, or anything that needs fixed on these pages, please send an email to me at my email address there on the screen. I've got it both on the screen for us at ann.gunter@dpi.nc.gov, as well as posted on the webpage. So you can always connect with me and let me know about a new resource or a problem with one we've got posted. Also on the main landing page of Teach WL Remote, we have posted something new that I wanted to share with you today and have our guest speaker talk about a little bit in detail. In North Carolina, every district and charter school has a world language coordinator. And that person may be someone who was a world language teacher previously and now is an administrator and is responsible for things like professional development for world language teachers. Or that person may have come from a different teaching background and be responsible for world languages and multiple other areas, maybe arts education or ESL or social studies or even the whole K-12 curriculum sometimes. It just depends on what local decision has been made about that administrative position. But we have several districts in North Carolina who do in fact have a coordinator who just does world language coordination and who comes from a world language teaching background. And several of them get together periodically just to discuss common things and share ideas with each other as sort of a PLC, a professional learning community that they create for themselves. So this spring, 2020, a group of them began meeting to discuss specific questions they had about K-12 world language classes during school closures. Things like, how are we going to get information to teachers so they can share with their students? What are the expectations? That sort of thing. And so the coordinators that have been meeting are from the districts you see listed on the right, 6 different districts. And again, these are some of the ones that have a world language coordinator who did in fact come from a world language teaching background and only has world languages or related areas as part of their administrative duties. So their conversation is ongoing, and they've actually started to share what they've been talking about and doing within their districts and their schools to learn from each other, and then also to share it with you so that others can learn too. Because oftentimes, we have questions like this, and you think, well, who can I go to? Who are other world language educators that I can talk to? And you may be the only world language teacher in your school, the only teacher of that language. I know I certainly was as a French teacher. Or, across the district, your schools may be farther apart. And so connecting with colleagues can be challenging. And you may or may not actually have a world language coordinator who looks at your PD without having other tasks on their plate too. So they say, well, let's collect all this information and share it in a document that others can access. And then they can think about too, what would be best for them based on sort of the examples that are being shared. And right now in this document, they've got some information about things like the process for remote learning that's being used in their districts and schools, how they're connecting with teachers about the things they need to communicate with students or how they're structuring classes and things like that. They've talked a little bit about professional development for world language teachers currently as well as into the future. They started to talk specifically about what moving into the next school year, 2020, 2021, will be like. How they might prioritize objectives for the curriculum based on what's been accomplished this spring and what needs to be accomplished as students move on to the next level of courses, for example, or the next part of the program, and utilizing external assessments. There's a lot of other things they could discuss too, and they are doing that, and this document can continue to grow. It is a Google spreadsheet that's currently view only, and it's posted at the bottom of the TeachWL remote page. So I'm going to introduce one of those district coordinators who've been having that discussion, Delinda Ramirez-Carter, who's the World Language Coordinator with Wake County Public School System. Delinda?
Good afternoon or good evening, whatever it is, I guess, in your end. Thank you for having me on today. I think Anne Marie said it best when she said, was talking about her site, remote site, or her resources site, talking about working together. And so that is the first thing I wanted to say about this document is that this document was born out of questions that we had when our districts were closing and we didn't have, at the moment, direct instruction. And so we had to start making our own path. And we decided and what that would be best is to collaborate with each other. And so, when we're making these decisions and as we make these decisions, collaboration and bouncing ideas off each other has been just very, very important. And I encourage you all, whether you're in the district supervisor role or you are a language teacher, is to lean on your colleagues and collaborate and talk through various ideas and scenarios. So we went through these different scenarios amongst the 6 of us and talked about the different processes that we would adopt for our districts and how we would share resources and information with our teachers. We were very excited when this document did come out, and we were able to see what we were all doing across the board, and we were able to make different decisions based on what we saw working in other districts. I think I'm most excited about going towards the next part, the next phase of this. I think we're all kind of in the remote learning rhythm right now, but what I'm really excited to start working on is working to the 2020-2021 school year. Within my district, we are having it's called a re-entry gap, a meeting to address the re-entry gap that all of our language students will be facing that we're taking language classes this semester. And so that's going to be the next document that I bring to this group and ask them to look at. Since I'll be creating this with my district, I will want to then again collaborate and share with my colleagues and decide what other components need to be added to this document. And that's where we are at this point.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on our link to go out to our Teaching World Languages remote site so that we can kind of see where this is posted. Like I said, it's on that site, but it's all the way at the bottom, and it has its own space. And you can just click on either the links to say this document or the document itself, and it pulls up the view only. As Delinda was saying, this is a document in progress, and you can see that it's being added to as we go. We have each row is a different topic, and then each column then is what that coordinator has shared about that topic for their district. So I'll kind of scroll through, but you can access this on your own, particularly as it grows and expands. And Delinda, do you want to share kind of some of the things you've already put into it, some details and things that might be interesting or that people might want to look up right away?
Sure, I was actually trying to pull it up on my screen. Couldn't get that far. So one of the things that we did talk about early on is how to connect with other teachers. Like I stated at the very, very beginning, that's kind of a passion of mine, is connecting teachers with teachers and myself connecting with other teachers. And so developing PLT learning groups or PLC groups has been very, very important in our work. Within my district, I made sure to gather language specific groups, especially when you have a teacher who is the only language teacher at the school in whatever language, to create that platform to collaborate. And I think that that has been what has strengthened us the most. Its most efficient way. It was very quick, and we went into action the very first week that we were out, and started with language specific groups that collaborated on, doing some benchmarks and what are the highlights that you're going to hit with the time that we have. At that time, we thought we were going back to school mid-May, but we also knew that our time was going to be cut short anyway based on the remote learning ideas. And so that was one of the biggest things that was most important to me, that I added onto this particular document. I think as we went along, other types of questions were answered eventually, either by the state or by our districts, regarding testing and grading and things like that. And so we're still in the process of sifting through those types of ideas as far as how are we going to close out our school year. But I think the most important part or point during this time was that collaboration, and facilitating those collaboration or collaborative groups with different language groups in my district, different languages and different levels.
All right. So, like we said, this document is available. It's view only to everybody else, so that our district coordinators can continue to add to it, whether that's add to the details about some of these topics or add new categories that they want to discuss. It's all here for you to look at. I had a couple people say, well, how do I get to the view you are doing? And I would say, well, you just click on that from the web page. Right here, the bottom of that main web page that we were talking about as the resources, and it'll be in view only. So you can make your screen as big as you want. You saw that I zoomed mine up so that we could easily see what Delinda was talking about and sharing from her district about connecting with teachers. But you can also do things like download your own copy and then make it as large or small as you want, or focus on particular information. You might also have noticed up at the top that each district has identified who's contributing to this, including some of the specific district coordinators with their email addresses. So if you ever had a question for them specifically and you want to know more, you could contact them, as you can contact any of our district coordinators for districts or charter schools as a way to connect with each other. All right. So let's go ahead. While we're thinking about what's on our shared local guidance document, I wanted to find out from you what topic you think will be most helpful to read about from that, and also what other topics you would like to have on the document. So 2 questions. What I'd like for you to do is think about that, and then type your answer into the questions box to be either shared aloud today, the now part of it, or shared for future discussion, maybe with the coordinators to see what they would say about that topic. So when you type in the questions box, please start your answer with the question number 1 or 2 that you're answering. 1, again, is what topic do you think will be most helpful to read about that's already on the document? And 2 would be, what other topics would you like to have on that document for shared local guidance? And then write now or later after your question or after your response for when you would like this information shared. Now is today, and later is for further discussion later. All right, I'll give you some time for that, and we'll see what happens. So one of the things about GoToWebinar is that unfortunately I can't share with you in the questions box all the answers that are coming through, but they are tremendous. So thank you so much for responding and sharing your thoughts on this. Delinda, just so you know, there are people saying that they really appreciate some of the things that you're already tackling as a group and sharing information about, particularly about what reentry will look like and how we will move into the next school year. And I know that's a topic I think on everyone's mind right now, and how that will work. Um, Plans are underway, as you know, both from a statewide perspective and, you know, in districts and schools and even in classrooms right now. So we'll just kind of see as we close out this year, what directions we receive to move forward into the next year and how that's going to look. But as you can see from that document, there are a fair number of things that the district coordinators are already starting to think about in relation to that, just as I'm sure all of us are thinking about. We've also got some different things people are focusing on. Besides that, many people said that they'd like to learn more about things like the reentry gap that students may experience and even teachers may experience, particularly when it comes to thinking about, you know, how do we prioritize curriculum objectives as we move back into a new school year, with the gaps that we know may be out there in students learning of a language and building their proficiency. So a lot of people say they want to talk about what realistically you can do about that. I'm seeing some comments about how it will be good to see when it comes to that learning gap, what other districts and schools are doing, just to get insight and think those things through. There's also several people commenting on how important it is to start thinking already about professional development for world language teachers, what that should look like, either if we're talking about, you know, professional development related to teaching remotely or teaching online, or other types of professional development that are important as well for all teachers. There's also some people looking at things like how do we assess students currently, as well as when we are into the next school year, to see what it is they really need, where are their gaps, and where are the things that maybe they have moved ahead on, or where we think they need to be. All right, so a lot of people focusing in on those prioritizing objectives. Thank you so much for contributing to these questions. We will be sharing those as part of this work going forward and as part of our work in creating resources for teaching world languages remotely. It's an important topic for all of us, even more so currently. But even thinking forward, you know, how we might be using different strategies we've learned during this crisis to more effectively serve our students. All right. Well, thank you so much to Delinda for coming to share from what the group's been discussing. Um, it has been an ongoing conversation, I know, and they've been meeting about every couple of weeks or so and expanding what they're talking about. So check back on that spreadsheet often. Thank you, Delinda, for being here today.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
All right, so let's move on to our next topic then. I wanted to share with you a little bit about our international agreements, or what we call memorandums of understanding, MOUs. Right now, North Carolina has 3 international agreements, formal agreements like this. One is with the Kingdom of Spain. It was the original agreement, it's the oldest one we have. It was signed in 1995, and it renews actually this year in 2020. So right now, we're looking to talk with Spain about that renewal and how it will look, probably sometime late in the summer. We also have an international agreement with Jiangsu province in China. It was originally signed in 2008, and its renewal year is 2021, so coming up next year. And right now, we are getting ready to finalize an agreement with the Académie de Rem in France, and it will be signed, we think, anytime soon here in 2020. So work is underway, and we're almost there. These international agreements are formal agreements to do the kinds of things I'm sure you're already picturing for your classrooms and your students. A way for us to connect with colleagues in these countries who maybe teach the language that we're teaching here or teach in that language, and also a way for us to partner with them and their schools and districts to further our own understanding of building language skills, but also reaching out and understanding what it means to be a global citizen and how we do that for our students, and also connecting our schools, whether we're talking about a language learning environment or any kind of learning environment, how that looks in other countries with our partners. If you want more information about the international agreements, you can go to our global education landing page on the new DPI website. It's at bit.ly/ncglobaln, and then just click on the international agreements section on the right to learn more. So I've got a screenshot of it there in the bottom right corner to kind of show you what that looks like. So that's where our international agreements are. Of course, we also partner with other countries and regions of the world. There are many things we do, for example, with Germany and with our contacts here in this country with other folks too. So there's German consulate office in Atlanta. There's Japan centers around the region that we connect with for Japanese and many other languages and countries as well. But these are the 3 formal agreements we have at the moment. I do want to share with you too an opportunity that you may want to think about for planning for next year. With the new international agreement with France, the Académie de Rem, we have the opportunity to do school partnerships. There's actually an application you can fill out if you would like to have a school partnership with a colleague in France at the Académie de Rem, and then we will connect you. So we communicate with Aurora Romberg. She is the administrator there in the Académie de Rem, and the Académie de Rem is similar to a district we would have here or even a region of our state. And so that's in the Region Académique Grand Est or Big East district. So if we look at a map of France there, in the northeast part is where the Académie de Rem is. And so you can see on the map how that lays out. And they have schools throughout that region of the Academy that we can connect with and have partnerships. So right now, so far, we've actually already submitted a set of applications. I call them the winter set because we sent them in right at the end of the calendar year in December. And I want to share some good news with you. So even though we don't have the international agreement formally signed yet, though we will soon, we've been able to go ahead with these school partnerships and get those established. Right now, in the winter set, we had sent in 7 applications from 4 different districts, and our districts were Haywood County Schools, Mooresville Graded Schools, Nash Rocky Mountain Schools, and Watauga County Schools. And from those 7 applications, we had French classes who wanted to connect with a partner, but we also had other classes like chemistry classes or CTE classes in health sciences or marketing or theater arts classes. So these kinds of partnerships are available not just to world language teachers and their students in classrooms, but in fact to colleagues who teach in English. because in France, one of the things that they want to do to support their own teaching and learning is to have colleagues like this internationally that they can share content information with and have their students connect and do virtual projects. And so whether that's in French or in English or both at times is great. And we could have partnerships all across the curriculum K-12. We've had 5 matches from those 7 applications so far, so things are progressing well with that. And what happens is that when we send our applications in, Aurora Romberg, as I said, our partner, our contact there, matches us up with teachers in France and from her academy who've also applied for a partnership. So she tries to match them up based on their interests and their school levels. So high school teachers to high school teachers, middle school to middle school, and so forth. They are particularly pleased, by the way, to be partnered with North Carolina because, as you can see in that region of France, or as you can imagine probably, there are a wide variety of schools. So schools in urban areas, suburban areas, and rural areas. They have some mountains, just like we do in the West. They have a lot of small towns, and they want their teachers and students to be connecting with partners who are in similar geographical settings. So we're a very good match for this particular academy in France. Right now, with our 5 matches so far, and hopefully we'll have the other 2 matched soon, we're just asking the teachers in both countries to connect with each other via email and start planning for the 2020-2021 school year. So we're just in a planning mode right now, but everyone's got time to do that, especially as we work through the school closure process that's happened in both countries and think through to the next school year. So with that in mind, I wanted to share with you that we are going to be sending in a spring set of applications for school partnerships. They'll have a particular focus. First of all, they're focused on middle schools from across North Carolina. Aurora has said the Academy has 10 to 15 teachers at the middle school level who would really like to be partnered with someone in North Carolina who's also in a middle school. As I said, these will be for virtual projects for the coming school year. So nothing is expected this school year, of course, other than just to connect with your partner once the match is made, and then to start planning what you will do during the new school year. France, by the way, resumes school around the same time as we do each year in the late summer, early fall. When it comes to applications, I'm sure people say, well, what makes me a good applicant? It's always helpful to have one or more of these things happening in your school. So here are some things to think about. First of all, language program in your school would be good. Of course, you may want a French program as someone who could help you with the French if you need that with your partner teacher, but it doesn't have to be. It could be another language program. Don't worry though if your middle school doesn't have that. Maybe you're a middle school that has French offered at the high school level, so something your students are going to after middle school offered at the high school level. Or it could be that you have a global or international theme for your school or your district. So think about that. Some of those are formal. Some people are considered global ready schools or global ready districts. That's a designation they've earned. Some are IB schools through the International Baccalaureate Program. And some have that as a magnet or just a theme in general that they focus on because they want their students and their teachers to be future focused and globally focused. Or you might have a local partner teacher who teaches a subject in English who wants to do this with you. We really encouraged the first set of applicants to reach out to their colleagues who teach any subject where they might partner already with them on some project or might have a close connection with them in what they do professionally. And so that's something to think about too. That would help your application to have a teacher there where the 2 of you are applying. Several of the matches have been 2 people here in North Carolina and 2 people in France at the same school, so they can really share quite a lot between the 4 of them. So those are always positive things to think about. So that's what we're looking for in this spring set of applicants. So I've already seen a lot of questions coming in. And so I'm going to ask you this question as you've been doing your thinking about this. Would you like to submit a school partnership application in the spring set that we sent in early June? You may want to say, yes, please send me the application to complete as soon as possible or ASAP. You may want to say yes, but you'll need to think through some details before you fill it out and have it sent in. You may want to say maybe, but you need to verify some things with others first, maybe with colleagues or supervisors or whatnot. You may want to think about this opportunity for a future submission. Maybe this isn't the right time for you, but you know, in the future, in the fall or next winter or spring could be. Or you may want to say no, not at this time for this opportunity, and that's okay too. I'm going to go ahead and run that question, and then we'll see where you're at with being able to submit a school partnership application for this spring set, which would be due in early June. Please go ahead and enter what you'd like. As we're finishing up voting, I do want to address a couple things. First of all, greetings to a few folks who are online who have already been matched in this particular school partnership application. The way we started out, since it was an application for France, is I contacted the North Carolina chapter of the American Association of Teachers of French, or the NCAATF, and asked their officers if they would be interested in sending in an application for that first set we did in the winter. And so as you saw, there were 7 applications sent in, and we are making matches just based on that. We did always intend to, you know, open this up to many, many more people, and that's part of what I'm doing today. I'm also hoping that our MOU, our international agreement, will actually be finalized sometime soon, and that we can include an invitation for folks to submit an application as part of our announcement with that. All right, so we've voted, it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and close our poll and share what we've said. All right, it looks like there's some eager folks, 7% of you who said, I'm ready to apply right now. Go ahead and send it to me and I'll complete it as soon as possible. And I will actually, from our information here that we've been filling out, I get a readout of all of our attendees. If you've indicated that, I will in fact be contacting you with the application to complete and a deadline of when to get it back to me so that we can send it in as part of that spring set of applications in early June. About 15% of you said yes, you definitely want to submit an application, but you need to think through some things, and that's fine. As I said, I'll be sending out applications, and then you can decide when you want to fill that out. For the spring set, I'm going to ask that you return them by early June, probably June 1st or something. But if you decide that you want to wait until the next application period, that's fine too. That's perfectly fine. About 14% of you are in that group probably. You said maybe, but you'll need to think about it and verify some things. A little over a third of you said, let me think about this opportunity for a bit and maybe for a future submission, maybe in the fall or next winter or next spring. That's fine too. We're not in any hurry. We'll have this opportunity ongoing. And about a quarter of you said, no, not at this time. And I certainly understand that too. I do want to clarify a couple things, questions I've been getting. There are some people in the chat who said, hey, what if I am a you know, a high school teacher? You said you're looking for middle school applications, but can I still apply? And the answer is yes. Please do apply if you're interested. We are kind of focusing on middle schools because we've been told that there are middle school teachers in France waiting for matches, and so we want to help that along if we can. But we're also taking applications from high school teachers as well as elementary teachers. No one is left out if you're interested in applying. If you don't get matched in this set, even though we've submitted your application, of course, your application will be on file and they will continue to try to match you as best they can and as soon as they can. I've also been looking at some other questions. A lot of people have said, can we have this opportunity for schools in Spain? And the answer is not yet. Right now, our international agreement with Spain doesn't have this kind of opportunity in a school partnership application. However, that is something we're going to be looking at when we go forward and renew the international agreement with Spain later this year. So hopefully that will be an opportunity that will be possible with Spain or perhaps some other Spanish-speaking country with an international agreement. We have some different questions about can we apply if we're just a single teacher from, we don't have a partner here that teaches something else, that's fine too. You can certainly fill out an application just for yourself, just for your class, whatever it is. Some people said, could they be matched with a Spanish class in France? And I think anything is possible. If that's what you would like to do, I would say fill out the application. We do have somebody asking, could you get a link to the application? And the answer is, I will send you the application. I can't post it right now because we have to formalize the agreement and so forth, but I can send you the application if you've indicated your interest here. So look for that soon. All right, so just to sum up, right now we have school partnership applications for schools in France. We may have them for other countries and other situations later on, but for right now, that's where we're at. All right, well, I'm conscious of our time. We've got a few more things to get through, and then we'll close out for today. The next few items are just really more about sharing information with you so that you'll have resources or at your fingertips to plan for next year. I wanted to share with you that we have a new LinguaFolio website. Prior to this formative assessment tool that we have here in North Carolina, and we have nationwide, of course, had some pages with on the World Languages website, and now it has its own website and space to go to. One thing that's really good about that is that our other language educator colleagues in ESL, English as a Second Language, also share this website. So it's for all language learners, and it's their own unique space. So you see the new LinguaFolio website. It has a bit.ly link so you can quickly get to it. And then you see a screenshot of what it looks like when you get there. A couple of things on there that I want you to be aware of in planning for the next school year. There are LinguaFolio classroom materials. If you want to use LinguaFolio in your classroom, you can get those materials for free in 3 different formats or versions. You can get them as PDF or Microsoft Word documents, and that's for both World Languages and ESL. And then we also have an online version as an app, LFO or LinguaFolio Online, and that's available for all language learners, World Languages and ESL. So that's combined. I would encourage you to choose what works best for you and your students. As teachers, as lifelong language learners, of course, it would be good for us to have our own LinguaFolio because it documents what skills we have in a language and what we're building into as we continue to build our proficiency in the language. We can always do that and improve our skills in the different domains or communication modes and competencies that we have. Just so you know, for World Languages, the LinguaFolio classroom materials, which are similar for ESL, include PDF bundles of the 3 parts of LinguaFolio, which is the biography, the dossier, and the passport. The biography components themselves are available individually as either PDF documents on the left with the little red icons or Word documents on the right with that. And so those are accessible on the website and can be downloaded. We also have a series of can-do statements. Some of you may associate LinguaFolio particularly with the successful, actful can-do statements, and those are all there. In addition, we have some proficiency grids. Of course, our LinguaFolio materials are the ones that are used nationally, but we have downloaded them and put them on this website for us to use in North Carolina so that you don't have to register nationally or go through that process. We've also got the proficiency grids done up different ways. Of course, we have the national proficiency grid that everyone uses with the successful, actful, can-do statements. And then we've created proficiency grids that are specific to our World Language Essential Standards and our English Language Development Standards. And those have to do with our proficiency outcomes for different languages as we learn them. So for alphabetic and logographic languages, spoken languages, we have that. We have them for ASL, American Sign Language, a visual language. And then we have a grid for classical languages like Latin and Ancient Greek. And then finally, we have links to all of the successful, actful, can-do statements, again, in PDF or Word. And then we also have the older statements from 2013, as you can see at the bottom of the page. Also for LFO, for NC, it has its own webpage on the website, and you can see its own bit.ly link as well. I want to emphasize that because that is where we go to get that. Of course, you can get LFO for yourself, but we have contracted with the state to make it available to our teachers and students here in North Carolina. So there's some explanation about that on that page. And specifically, there's an LFO access form. So North Carolina teachers in K-12 public schools, districts or charter schools, who want to use LFO in their classrooms are eligible for free accounts for themselves and their students. You just have to submit the LFO access form if you and your students qualify. And that's what the form looks like. It's a Google form. And then the folks at the University of Oregon who have LFO process that and give you your join codes and things like that so you can access your accounts. If you happen to be outside of the North Carolina public school system, you can still get an LFO account. You just have to contact the University of Oregon separately at the email that's listed there for their help desk and make those arrangements yourself. There is a small cost to it, as there is with most apps. I think it's about $2. And so if you're in the North Carolina public schools, that's covered for now, and you can get your accounts. If you're outside of that, you can still get that, but then you just have to make your own arrangements. Also, another thing I wanted to share with you is that we have several self-paced Canvas courses available to teachers for professional development. I'm going to start with our DLI book studies, or dual language immersion book studies. The one on the screen, the Educating English Learners for a Transformed World, is the self-paced Canvas course we currently have available. In the future, we're going to put together a Canvas course for dual language education for a transformed world, the red book that you see there, and then ultimately for the other 3 books in this series from Thomas and Collier, who are researchers with DLI who've worked with North Carolina and other places in the country for a number of years. For our DLI book studies, what we usually do is offer them in the fall as instructor-led, and then you have the option of doing 1 CEU or 2 CEUs. They're available for the asynchronous work in Canvas, the work you do on your own. And then we have synchronous sessions, kind of like this, although a bit more interactive with discussion, in a virtual meeting platform. And then after that, in the spring, those instructor-led courses are converted into the self-paced courses we're talking about today. They're available for 1 CEU. They are asynchronous, meaning that you interact with the materials and so forth in the state platform. For our NC K-12 public school educators to enroll in at will and complete individually. So you can go into the NESA system, the home-based system, and enroll for that and complete that at your own pace. These courses will also be shared in Canvas Commons to be locally adapted if you want to do your own instructor-led versions, let's say as your PLC, or if you're out of state or outside of the K-12 system, they would still be available for you in Canvas Commons. Instructions for enrolling in that self-paced 1 CEU course for the first book are posted on the book studies page under the professional development tab on our NCDLI website. I'm showing you a picture of that, and you can see here that you have that. It's actually an information sheet that gives you step-by-step instructions of how to enroll in that Canvas course so that you get 1 CEU credit within our NESA system automatically when you complete. In addition, we are going to have very soon a self-paced Canvas course called Introduction to LinguaFolio. And this is the LinguaFolio training that most people in the past would have gotten, let's say, at a conference or a PD session in their school or district. And so we are putting that online so that you could do that perhaps over the summer if you were interested in learning more about LinguaFolio and using it in your classroom. That'll be posted on the LinguaFolio website, of course, on the professional development page. On that new website, and this is what it will look like as well. Same kind of thing, you'll have a sheet of instructions so you can enroll in that for yourself and begin your work when you want to in the self-paced Canvas environment. We will also release that one in Canvas Commons so others outside of our NC K-12 public school system can access it for professional development too. Given our time, I'm going to go ahead and skip our last poll question. One of the things we often talk about during these presentations is what we call PD to go, professional development to go. That's where we feature one of the language educator sample articles from ACTFL. Those are articles available from our national organization, American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. And they have 1 free article per issue every time they've published since 2010. So these are good materials to have. And you can go ahead and access those when you need to. If we'd had more time today, we talked a little bit about that, and we would have talked about the article called Language Can Be Music to Students' Ears. It is available as a handout, and it will be posted with our materials for this. And so then you can use that as you need to. We don't have time today, but I did put in the slides for you to use. If, for example, you wanted to take this article and use it in your PLC, to think about some before pre-work activities with it, some during or in-session activities you could do with this particular article, and then some after or follow-up activities. So all those materials are still there, and I leave them for you to discover as you need to. We will close out today, and I do appreciate people staying on. I understand if you have to go, but we're almost through, and I did want to make sure you had some of the details about our reminders and resources. This broadcast is part of our 2019-2020 World Language Webinar Series. You can see the ones that we've already done. They've been grayed out if they're already finished and posted with the archives on the World Language Webinar Series page. And you can see this is the last one for this year. That's okay. We'll be planning some for the next school year, so stay tuned for that, and always look on that webpage to find that. Also, I saw people asking earlier about this, and so I'm glad I included this slide. The GLE, the Global Languages Endorsement, which is North Carolina's seal of biliteracy, is something our graduating seniors can still earn this year. I want to make sure you knew where it was available. It's on our World Languages Google site under the Policies tab, but it has its own bit.ly link, bit.ly/NCSealGLE, if you want to get information about that. This is something that's automated in the PowerSchool system. So when students qualify for this, does get indicated, and it is on their transcript as one of our 5 diploma endorsements. So that is still available for our graduating seniors this year. Please don't worry about that. If you'd like more details, I would encourage you to go to that page, particularly if you want to see the data on our Global Languages endorsement so far. North Carolina is a leader in the nation with this, and so I'm proud to share with you that, as you can see, we have over 9% of our high school graduates each year who've been earning this, especially since it was automated and doesn't have to be entered manually. If you want to see kind of where your school or district stands with how many graduates you've had each year earning it, which languages and so forth, you can do that. That information is posted on that website that is there in the top with the bit.ly link, so that you can actually go and look at that and see the details that you need to. A couple other reminders as we go forward into the next school year. Please don't forget our state organization, FLANC, the Foreign Language Association of North Carolina, has their annual fall conference coming up in October. This year will be October 9th and 10th in Winston-Salem. They'll have a lot of options for us, including pre-conference webinars, 2 days of 50-minute concurrent sessions, research roundtable sessions, as well as 3-hour workshops on Friday and Saturday. Registration will open soon on May 15th for the fall conference, and our theme this year is Hindsight is Flank 2020, How Far We've Come. And so the presenters are reflecting on what they've learned as teachers in world languages and building students' proficiency. At this point, this conference is being planned to be face-to-face in October. However, the Flank board also is looking at options to have a blended format or an online format if needed, depending on our situation at that time in the state. Also, I wanted to share with you that ACTFL, like I said, our national organization, has a convention and special interest groups, SIGs. The ACTFL convention is in November. It's the week before Thanksgiving. The details are at the link you see here, and all these links, by the way, are also in the notes portion of these slides. There's details about the keynote speakers who were just announced, registration, scholarships you can get to attend ACTFL in the fall. And I wanted to share with you that ACTFL Basic membership includes one free special interest group. There is an immersion SIG, as it says there, but also there are other groups that focus on things like culture or film or less commonly taught languages or a whole host of things. And there's a free 1-year basic membership available to anyone who's a new member who joins through June 30th. That free ACTFL basic membership is part of ACTFL's resources in response to the COVID-19 situation we're dealing with. And so I would encourage you to check that out if you haven't already, to see what ACTFL has to offer as our national organization. I also wanted to remind you about our regional group, SCOLT, the Southern Conference on Language Teaching. Their annual conference will be next March. Unfortunately, this year they had to cancel their conference in Mobile, Alabama because of the school closure situation with COVID-19. However, they are planning on being in Atlanta, Georgia on March 18th through 20th, 2021. Proposals for that conference are due September 1st, so there's something to think about too over the summer as you're planning for the next school year. And you can use the online form to submit proposals to them, as well as get more details about them on their conference page, scolt.org/conferences. Also wanted to remind everyone that starting next year, we will be starting the process to revise our state standards in world languages, our North Carolina World Language Essential Standards. Here's the revision timeline. I just wanted to remind everyone, our exploration process officially begins in January of 2021. We'll be looking at drafting revisions in the next school year following that, 21-22. And then installing our new standards in 22-23 with things like professional development around the new standards, and then officially implementing in the 23-24 school year. I know that's a lot to think about, but since it's May and we're planning ahead, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew this information and knows that we're on track as of this moment to revise our state standards just as we should be. To finish us out today, I want to remind you that always available on our World Languages Google site, we have upcoming professional development. We have a K-20 professional development list that has all kinds of opportunities, mostly webinars and virtual things right now, but also things like summer opportunities and into the fall. We also have lists for educators and students for opportunities like contests, grants, and scholarships, and that's in the K-20 opportunities list page. So that's accessible on our World Languages Google site for you at all times. If you want to make sure you get that information, be sure to sign up for our World Language listservs. We have 4 of them, as you can see there. In fact, you may have gotten information about this webinar through those listservs, but you can also subscribe to other DPI listservs that are of interest to you in your work. So if you go on that link, bit.ly/NCDPI updates, you can sign up for any of the World Language listservs or other listservs like for charter schools or global education, legislative updates, those kinds of things. So I encourage you to do that and always stay informed to get the information you need. Finally, that's our wrap up for today. Again, my name is Anne-Marie Gunter. I'm the World Languages Consultant to serve your needs. You can always email me. You can also connect with me using the website or our NCDPI World Languages Facebook page. So I encourage you to get involved with that and share with me whatever your questions are. I do thank you for coming today. I hope you've learned something that you can use in your classrooms and in your planning for next year.